are listening to Dr. Sarah Larsen, and this show is Mediums, Mysteries, and Miracles. And we are coming to you live from Gower Sunset Studios here in Los Angeles, Hollywood, California. We are in the space of the miraculous, and we are inviting you, dear miracle makers, welcome home. This show is for you and the beautiful community that you and I are part of. Co-hosting with me this beautiful community, co-creating for you is my amazing, darling husband, Greg Larsen. Woo!
Thank you, Dr. Sarah. Welcome, miracle makers, to this amazing, experience we're creating to unlock. And actually, the word you've been using lately is to embody your purpose, to embody who you are as a miracle maker.
To embody your soul, what you're here for. You can do the miraculous every day. Live in the mystery and totally pull in what is being created for you as a medium. Know everything that's going on. And on this show, we're going to teach you how to be a medium, how to be a psychic. On this show, we're going to share with you some of the greatest mysteries that we know right now. And you're totally going to experience the miraculous. And so this is for insights. This is for you, miracle makers, that we brought in one of the most amazing people that both of us have ever met in our entire lives. He's helped over 1 million people already and he's so young. It's hard to imagine that he's helped 1 million people through his company with his amazing work that he does. He has a website called Discerning Wisdom. We've got in studio at UBN with us Dr. JaiRon Holman. If you could see him, he looks like a king. You're going to have to watch this on video at some time when we make it available for you, because he is so regal and so amazing. I'm so grateful you had the time, especially today, to be here with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. And, it's time. It's really time to stand up and stand in your power and to be of service beyond what you imagine can happen, because it's ready.
It's such a brilliant time. Ready, meaning all the planets are direct right now. This is January 1st, 2016, that we are creating this show for you. And so if you're listening, you are feeling the energy of the sounds vibrating through us with the alignment of all of the planets. And it's nothing short of a miracle to be on the radio, on air with you, and to have Dr. Ron Holman here. I'm going to start with just a little bit of a description of how we met. There was a little bit of a note. I had just come out of the closet with my psychic abilities, and there was a tiny little ad that had been created by one of my friends, unbeknownst to me, that this ad was out in the world. And I get a call from a Dr. JaiRon Holman. And I'd love for you to take the story from there just a little bit.
Well, I looked at the ad. I saw Dr. Sarah Larsen, MD, third-generation palm reader, and my heart just said, I better go meet this Dr. Sarah Larsen, palm reader. So I made an appointment, went in, paid her $200. Put my hand out. She looked at my hand. She looked at me. She looked at my hand. She looked at me. She said, we're going to be really good friends. And sure enough, that's what happened.
At the time, it was so miraculous. My grandmother had just passed away, and I decided she taught me, and I never showed her any of the arts that she had taught me, outperformed for her, because I was always listening with my grandmother, who was a village healer. And so in her honor, I set out to read 1,000 poems to share. And out of that, one of the most beautiful friendships formed. You run a company that helps heal mental illness all over the planet, basically because of where your reach has been now. In the way that you work, you've traveled to India, Italy, Brazil, searching for and connecting the best practices to heal, the best practices in order to love. And when I looked at your hand, I met your then wife in your hand, this beautiful woman that was graced by beautiful life. And so I would love for you to share just a little bit about the moments of how you went on your journey to go beyond just the powers of being that everyday living, getting beyond what your wife was sent home to die by her doctors and said, there's nothing we can do. So you opened up the telephone book.
I did. And, Linda had 4th stage of liver cirrhosis, hepatitis C. In 1985, they said, well, go home and get your affairs in order. And so we looked at each other and said, well, maybe we'll look outside the box. We had no clue what that really meant. So I got the phone book out, and I have to tell you, I kissed a lot of frogs. Well-intentioned people that were preying on those that thought they could do something, black magicians, all over the map. But each time, because of my love, I was able to sort of, catapult from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And I studied with everybody that was teaching anything about energetic healing. And I'd come home and I would look to how I could blend this into my corporate work, because we deal with, Fortune 500 companies, and, they're very uptight, mostly. And so I'm a bridge between corporate healthcare and energetic medicine. And so this opportunity to look for an understanding of how to heal my wife really just brought all of that home. And at some point I woke up to, my karmic history and many gifts and skills from past lives. And, I went to Brazil with John of God for 4 times, and I went to China. I've been to India 15 times, Europe, China, all over the place. And, a lot has woken up. A lot has woken up. Linda lived another 25 years. She just passed in July, which, I was, interestingly, my teacher said that I was headed towards emotional euthanasia, which I'd never heard that term before. And they said, well, we're happy that you pulled out of that. And I said, well, it was the 3 lights that really helped me do that, Dr. Sarah, Devojananda, and Kimberly, which is why I'm promoting their events on the 30th of January and the 28th of February. And, the circumstances of our life will either get us closer to God or further away. And however you define God, spirit, consciousness, mother, it doesn't matter. That energy of, infinite possibilities of creation, etc., is there. And, I dove into the depths of that consciousness in India for the last 3 months. And, I got so resolved and settled, and the new chapter of my life started unfolding, and many gifts came online, and my teachers were very, very, very benevolent with me and gave me huge, huge support.
It's amazing to witness. Prior to your leaving for that 3-month journey, it was, you were so much on both sides of the veil. Looking at you, you were walking with your wife in the shadow of death, where she had already transitioned. And this period that, so was that the hardest time that you went through thus far? Was that the, what is it inside of you that kept you here?
Love kept me here. Love from you, love from Kimberly, love from Devoshananda, and the 39 years that I've spent practicing, surrendering, my life, my will and my life to the care of God. Yeah.
Yes, it's so beautiful that that's come in. There came a point where they said, Linda's going to be gone. This is going back a little bit before her passing. And she would say maybe a few years in, when did you know energy work was working with her? When did you feel and understand, wow, there's miracles happening?
All I know is that I'd go and study something, come home, and, I would just do the healing on her, mostly when she was sleeping. I stand at the foot of her bed, and let's see, and I learned Qigong, Qi Li in like 1995, maybe, 96. Mostly I used it to dissolve tumors. However, that's when we started hearing that, you're still in stage 4, cirrhosis, and we don't know why your numbers, her liver enzyme numbers, are so good, but whatever you're doing, keep it up. Doctors kept telling her that, kept telling her that, kept telling her that.
For years and years and years.
Years and years and years and years.
So the love that you had really, really kept her, and the learning and the energy. And it's funny to say she had a spirituality of her own. She was miraculous in winning the lottery and in winning in Las Vegas. She herself was a mystery and miraculous.
Linda would say, even though she didn't like to talk about it very much at all, but her playing slot machines, she could walk around and she says, I found myself standing in front of a machine, and I guess I'm supposed to play this one. And one night she, on a $500 coin machine, 2 coins, so $1,000 a pull, she hit $180,000. And then, after everybody went crazy and took the machine apart and looked at it, she changed her $500 coins into $100 coins, walked around, didn't feel anything, changed them back to 500s, and she said, I found myself standing in front of the same machine. And it's love. She said, I just go into love. And the same machine paid another $180,000. So they took her into the host room, and they said, Linda, what can we do for you? She said, and this is so Linda, well, I'd like a tuna fish sandwich, a Diet Coke, and a cashier's check, please. $250,000 cashier's check.
And so she brought home this $250,000 check,
She
and the
did.
miraculous. Oh, you brought home the miraculous over and over again. Greg, I'd love for you to chime in on some of the miracles and the mysteries that you've witnessed with JaiRon and on this journey that we've been walking together.
Yeah, well, actually, the question I have for you is, you're talking about over these years and years of searching for this healing, and then Linda receiving that, going to the doctors saying, well, you still are suffering, stage 4. So when people hear news like that, it's hard to stay in the miraculous or the miracle thinking, because you hear this news and it kind of shuts you down. So what kept you connected so that you could believe still, that you could still hold that space of the miraculous?
Well, Western medicine, people have practices.
Yeah.
So they're practicing is what they're doing. They don't really have the whole picture. So knowing that, and knowing that, Linda's numbers were, according to them, there was no explanation. I just concluded that what we must be doing must be making some sort of difference. Or, God is doing, something here. I never took really credit for doing anything other than just opening my heart and allowing my love and energy to flow.
It's so beautiful, Miracle Makers. If you hear that, it's about staying open to being a receptor for source and letting the miraculous come through.
Yeah.
And what else would you add from that?
Well, to me, it just sounds like that journey can be so depressing, and that's what I think a lot of people face that, whether in many different areas of life, whether it's relationships. I can't find the person I want to. Why can't I find the person to be in love with, or my soulmate? And you go through years and years, and you just start getting down, and so on. You close yourself off in a sense to being open for that. But it sounds like there was a healing that happened only because, or that was sustained, or life was sustained because you were in love and in the flow.
Yes, and for the last year and a half, Linda was very sick, and so much ammonia got into her brain. I mean, she was just not the same person. And I left the house many, many, many times, just so upset. And what works is gratitude. You have to find something that's beautiful and that you are grateful for.
And I love breaking words down as a miracle maker. Great attitude. Whatever grateful is, a great attitude. Even an attitude is really a location of finding yourself.
Exactly.
How a location within yourself. It's like longitude, latitude, attitude. And having a great location within yourself. And that doesn't mean everything in your life is going right, but it is really about staying in the possibility and finding something within yourself that you can say, ooh, I can like this a little bit. Or maybe I can even love this a little bit. Or there is something expanding that's happening to keep your energy, your love, your attention focused on that.
Exactly. And when we allow the outside circumstances of our life to create a mental, emotional conclusion about the present, we're lost. We're just lost. And I don't care if it's a good conclusion or a bad conclusion. Life is an inside job. And if you're looking for a soulmate, you better find it within yourself. If you can find it within yourself, then you're going to attract it.
That is powerful.
Yes,
right there.
Repeat that.
The soulmate is within you, and find that soulmate within. Yeah.
What's amazing is even though I had found my husband, it wasn't until deeper in our marriage that I really found how we were connected soul to soul. And it was around this time that I made this conscious decision that I was the love of my life. The only consistent thing that I have is this inner space that has visions playing, has audio playing. And if you're wondering what is that? That was that voice that was playing the audio right there, asking questions. What's she talking about? That's that inner voice. And when I loved that inner voice and said that inner voice and the observer of that inner voice, to love it all, to forgive myself, to love myself. I am the love of my life. and I could be kind in my inner voice to myself, could I really find all the love that my husband was trying to show me, that the community, everyone around was pouring on. And for anyone who might be like me, that has created the miraculous out there, but still doesn't feel it on the inside, I would say really taking moments to look at yourself and share what you're grateful for. Anything that you're grateful for that shows up in your past or in your current moment, that great attitude about yourself will generate the ability to have more miracles in your life.
When you look at that and begin to really love yourself, excuse me, just the way you are, means that the polished parts and the unpolished parts, you just love and accept them all. Why? Because God does. And when we start doing that, we can start becoming curious about those unpolished parts, and we can start looking at them with less anxiety and less fear, and just wonder, where is the blessing in this? I know there's a blessing there somewhere.
Yes, so they're looking for the blessing. And sometimes this is one of those things that we, as moms that have given birth, when we look back at the birth process with our babies coming through, we don't consider that process suffering because there was a purpose to it. We consider that and we surrender to the pain that's there. And so if there is any area of your life that is experiencing pain, searching for a beloved soulmate, healing a beloved that is under your care, if you can find the purpose in that for yourself, one of the purposes for me, if I were searching for a soulmate, might be, I get to show all the best parts of myself over and over again in conversation. And I'm searching like a needle in a haystack for the things that really, really light me up to share that are of value with another person as well. And so out of this journey, having a company that helps heal mental illness, that's purpose is really to alleviate suffering. Your purpose with your wife, alleviate suffering, surrendering that suffering and continuing life. What would you say is your purpose?
My purpose is to integrate the understanding and the practices into Western allopathic medicine of what health is. And health is a balance of mind, body, and spirit. And therefore, dis-ease is an imbalance in mind, body, and spirit. So in corporate worlds, to talk about religion or spirit or God or consciousness is, a little bit challenging. However, when we define spirit as everything from being a bluebird's mother to feeding the homeless to, going to church, going to the mosque, going wherever people go to really get that practicing, building a deeper relationship with spirit daily, is really a good idea. Just like attending to our bodies daily and nurturing it with good, healthy food. And, junk food usually has something to do with the unhappiness that's felt.
Yes.
This is just what I understand. And it's harder for me, even though I like a little junk food occasionally, it's harder for me to do that than it's ever been.
Yes.
And then emotionally to really get, curious about the various emotions, with our loved ones. There's things that can come up from time to time to just seem out of balance. and to get really curious, which is what I did in India, really, really, really curious about one of my major relationships that seemed a little wonky. Over the course of time, I really got deeply into, the love rather than whatever those energies were that got it a bit wonky. So curiosity and the heart energy, we can figure our way. It's like water rolling down a mountain stream, and hitting a rock. The water goes over, around, and in time, the water wears the rock into sand, and sand's used for building materials, right? For creating something new.
Yes. And water is so gentle and yet so strong. It finds its way. It matches the shape of whatever it's in. It becomes whatever it winds up in, whether it goes frozen. And when it's heated up, it becomes the expansion as well. And so what I would love more of your share.
Well, you know what I'm curious as I'm listening is, there's great things being taught or shared. Here's a tip, here's this tip, but ultimately it comes back to, okay, I got this great tip. I'm going to put this into my life, and you go back into your life experience, which is conditioned.
Yes.
And so the only way that I'm sensing here is there's some sort of practice you were involved in that broke you out of your conditioning and kept you in that process for all those years. There has to be some sort of practice involved to shift you into that. So you are more loved, you are more grateful.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just talk and there's nothing that
Right.
happens. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Practice is really important. You have to take action. And when I broke out of the conditioning that I had and the, let's see, how can I put this? All the fun I had in the 60s. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I became willing to head in a new direction that frightened me. However, I was more sick and tired of what I had than I was frightened about what was coming.
And so, miracle makers, this is a big one here, which is get yourself uncomfortable. Get yourself a little bit scared and take it purposefully in the direction that you want to take it. So you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to do something different, and you have to create a practice of doing that. For myself, I would say I had such a struggle with social anxiety at first. It was really, even going into a grocery store, going somewhere, I would circle. If someone was with me, I didn't have a problem. It's like, we're doing this together, codependency, my sister, someone, anyone. But when it was all by myself, I could circle around it. I could make excuses that there wasn't a parking spot. I could scare myself into not taking the next step of even parking the car and going within the building or the space. And I think, oh my God, if I could do it, anybody can do it. But I really had to take the steps. I had an inner conversation with myself, which really moved me to go to the next level. And so sometimes my inner conversation was, just pretend your sister's with you. Just pretend. And sometimes it was, you can do this. You can do anything. You can do this. And my inner voice would share that with me until I got into this space and I could breathe. And it was like, breathe, let go, let the fear go, focus on something here. And quite often, I made my mind focus on the color red. And I would look for the color red, and I'd make it a game. Look for the color red. This is someone I'm afraid to talk to. And my inner voice would say, kick in and go, look for something red. That practice of looking for something red made my inner voice that would say, oh, you're not good enough to talk to this person, or you might say the silliest thing, or what are they thinking? And I turned on a mechanism, a tool to allow my inner voice to stop stopping me and move forward. And you know what stops you, miracle makers. And so really figuring out what to say to that inner voice before you wind up in those situations is really a great practice.
I totally agree. Yeah, but although I was very curious because I love what you're sharing here, but I wanted to hear because you were just at this great part in the story where you were in this experience of the 70s, as you call it, or the 60s, and now you're getting ready to make this big shift, and you were sick and tired of what was and fearful of what was coming. So what was that? Go into that a bit more because I was very curious about that story.
Well, I started doing things that some of my mentors suggested, even if I didn't want to. One of them said, well, you should look in the mirror every day, look yourself in the eyes and say, I love you, Ron, just the way you are, because God loves you, Ron, just the way you are. I felt like throwing up when I started doing that some, 39 years ago. And I went back and I told him, I said, not only do I feel like throwing up, but it's not true. And he said, well, are you willing to have it be true? And I went, yeah. He said, well, then just do it. And I said, all right, I'll do it. 6 months later, it was neutral. It was neutral for a year and a half. Then it started to be a dance. I love you, Ron, just the way you are, because God loves you, Ron, just the way you are. So, having mentors, having teachers, having, individuals that have what I want. This has been something that I've sought out. And some of these have been short-lived. Some of them has been a bit misguided, maybe some karmic things, maybe some, well-intentioned justifications for staying with some teachers when, the best guidance was to move on. All this stuff happens, and I just kept putting one foot in front of another, and going from teacher to teacher to teacher. And since 2006, I've had the same teacher, and I've acquired some new masters in India. And, my dear spiritual community here, certainly Linda, the teachings we get from those we love, quite honestly, are just as valuable, if not more valuable, from these incredibly evolved beings.
For those who know how to listen, everything is a teacher. It's one of my favorite quotes. And what I love that you shared a minute ago was how this sharing is so beautiful. Everything is spiritual. There is nothing that isn't spiritual. Money, friendships, relationships, the person on the street, the person that we put on a pedestal sometimes and consider special. Everything is spiritual. There's nothing that doesn't have a force or a spirit behind it. And that's one of the great things that we learn in Egypt on these mystery tours that we take for old souls and miracle makers. We have one of those coming up this year in March. And you went on a mystery tour. You just got back from India recently and was studying with Maha and Ananda Sidha. Can you share a little bit about this immortal being that is present and sending things to us here in the West?
Absolutely. Maha Ananda Sidha lives in a cave in the mountains outside of Vellore, South India, which is between Chennai and Bangalore. And he was a billionaire. And God appeared to him in the form of Lord Shiva and said, go to this mountain, live in this cave, and feed and heal everybody that comes to you. And he did it. Walked away from billions. And then God appeared again in the form of Shiva and said, oh, by the way, you won't eat, drink, or sleep anymore, and you're going to live 500 years in that body. His body's 85, and he moves around like he's 38. He's just incredible. And being in his presence, there's no thoughts. I had no thoughts when I'm in his presence. And, that's beingness. You know, to
Yes.
be in the present, you know, is really such a blessing and such a gift. And you know, he treats me really nice, and he's playful, and he gives me gifts, and you know.
One of the stories that I love that you shared about him was a man drove cross country with his son that had passed away
Yeah,
in the car.
that's right.
And he, if you'll share that
He was
story.
this man was in Mumbai, which is on the other side of India, and it's during the summer. And if you ever know anything about being in a humid tropical climate during the summer, I mean, I don't know if you can even imagine driving with a dead body in the car 90 hours, you know, and he gets there, and Sidha comes down, lifts the kid's foot up in the air, puts his hand on the sole of his foot, and the kid opens his eyes.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, oh, I think we read about this somewhere. Wasn't it
Yes.
Lazarus or something that came back? I mean, this is happening in the world, and it's happening today,
Yes.
and it's happening in many places.
And this beautiful being has sent medicine, Siddha medicine. Siddha means great. And it's one of the modalities of healing practice, Siddha medicine in India. It's been around since before books were written, 5,000 years. There are formulas and herbals that get mixed in. And it's amazing that that was sent to the West in order to awaken, in order to deepen our capacity to love. And that is most everything is for free that was sent by Sidha, available to you at discerning-wisdom.com, which is your website. I'd love for you to share just a little bit around that.
Sure. You know, in 2012, I'm sitting in a five-star jail, my friend's center. He said, I'll be there in 20 minutes. 5 days later, he showed up. I mean, that was so challenging for me. My mind, you know, was trying to go and look at how disrespectful this was and blah, 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 blah. So
The jail meaning a hotel, first-class hotel.
Yeah,
Yes.
so, you know, I just surrendered and watched that and got curious and went deeper and deeper. So he shows up and he says, they have questions for you, meaning the immortal yogis. And I went, yeah, what kind of questions could they have for me? He says, well, they want to know if you'd be willing to bring their medicine to your friends in the West. Without thinking, I just went, yes. I had no clue what that meant. I was very private about what I learned and studied prior to that.
Yes.
That's what really brought me out into the community, because I came back with this medicine, and I had enough for like 41 people, and the only requirement is that there was no questions allowed about
Yes.
what it was or what it would do.
And so those...
That's being in the mystery. That's saying yes to the mystery right there.
I
yeah.
just say, if you get a yes in your heart, you can request it, and I'll give it to you. It's free. If you don't know or get a no, that's important. And it's just, you know, not now for you.
Yes.
It's just that simple.
And to understand, that is an understanding of grace in the greatest form. To have an immortal yogi bestow upon you this ancient wisdom in the form of medicine, being brought to the West, because the East is now looking to the West. All of Earth is looking to all of the energies that are here, because we're holding the space of truth, of honesty, of discernment, and of the greatest service that can come through. If you woke up today in a warm bed with all your needs met, with electricity and every food from around the world in your kitchen, get that you're living like a king 100 years ago, but also get that you're living like the wealthiest person in 2/3 of the world. And because we have the capacity to have all of our little needs met, grace is now making it possible for us, for those bigger, miraculous, mysterious powers that are within us to be awakened. And they always come. They always come to those that are in service to others, those that see oneness and love and see the other as another version of themselves. And so, what would you say your biggest strength is around this and all of this with being invited to carry grace?
Yeah, it was very interesting for me. And for the first 2 or 3 years, it was just sort of, it was a hard time to even think about why I was asked to do it. While I really don't have an answer to that, it really is my job. And I've accepted that. And the thing about the West also that a number of people are talking about is that it's the women of the West that will lead the planet into the golden age. And the East really has had a really bad history of supporting women all the way down to the village women to stand up in their power and to be equal. And, the men of the West really need to learn how to do that, and they need to learn how to be emotionally available and learn how to stand back without feeling less than, while the women that they're either married to or that they're working with or that are in the community stand up and move forward.
And
Wow, that is
yes,
beautiful and necessary.
and so brilliant. As a woman of the West that is really cultivated, educated, created a whole community, the miracle makers, the personal development, the discerning wisdom community, these beautiful communities, what we're finding is women nurturing men, nurturing children, nurturing each other. There is a group out of India, All Ladies League, Women's Empowerment Forum, Maha Siddha, who's gifted at least 1,000 babies. Would you say he's helped bring 1,000 babies to women that could not have fertility?
Yes, I've seen him. A village woman, he says, "What do you want?" She says, "I can't get pregnant." And he roared at her.
Yes.
And she literally in the air flew back like 4 feet. But behind that roar was this ocean of love. Somebody went up to her and whispered, "Tell him you want a baby." So she comes back up. She says, "I want to have a baby." This smile just filled the room. And he got, some Siddha medicine and some honey. And he was just in so much love as he mixed this stuff up and gave it to her. Within 2 months, she was pregnant.
And the miraculous is available for you when you know how to ask. And for myself, being able to heal, with being able to take people around the world and open up the miraculous, and with formulating and connecting the bonds that create beyond what is possible. And to have a partner that is holding such space. I would say my husband holds, and JaiRon, it's JaiRon, C-O, Yogi Ron, that supports your beautiful daughter, Elizabeth, as well, gathering the ability, learning how to love deeper and deeper because you're listening to what women want and need, and listening for ways to organize that better. And so, dear miracle makers, if you're a woman or identify yourself that way, get really clear about what you want. The energies on the planet are really creating for you through the masculine as well as the feminine. And if you're on the masculine end, really listen for how to be strong and create safety so that women will share with you deeper and deeper layers of what is necessary now.
To activate this this dormant potential of all of us being miracle makers. I was gonna, ask your JaiRon. It was just like, although it was evident when I was thinking in my mind, it's like, are women more powerful miracle makers than men? And it's just like, I think there's a deeper connection to the source of that, to God, to all of that. And maybe that's true, especially for transformation that's needed, for the conscious transformation that's needed. Men have been trying to consciously transform the planet for a long time, and
Yes.
it always seems to come back to war and power and greed and all of that. And so,
In the last few minutes that we have here,
Yeah.
as we're wrapping up, I really want to speak to the difference. There is a masculine and feminine within us all. And the feminine within us is receiving. And the masculine within us is the delivery system. And the planets are aligned at such a time that in the West, what women information, channeling, connection, love, what they're receiving, men are available for to deliver. That's just what's so. This pathway has been laid down to be part of the mainstream moving forward. It's to understand how to navigate and use the tools, use the energy that's already here. And we can always be found for you. And to continue the conversation on Facebook, we've got a Discerning Wisdom Facebook page. We've got a Dr. Sarah Larsen page. We've got a Living with Tolly and Greg Larsen page. We are just so glad that you're with us. And just in this, for each of us, just to give 1 minute closing statement that we'd love for you to create, being the medium of your own life, being in the mystery and the miraculous. And so JaiRon, Yogi CEO, please give us a sentence, a minute's worth that you will close on.
The Siddha medicine is a South Indian akin to the Ayurvedic medicine and some of the other medicines in the East. And on Discerning Wisdom, the Navapassanam, which is sometimes called the Fountain of Youth or the Rosetta Stone, is available free in my office, or I can mail it out. And these medicines actually support and expand and deepen the capacity to love through the practices, through the prayers, through the meditation. We have to do the work. There's no shortcuts. You can't take ayahuasca and become enlightened. It's just, I want to use a 4-letter word, but I'm not going to do that right now. So many people that get lost in this ayahuasca crap. So, you got to do the work. And
Yes.
the work is deepening your capacity to love. And that's naturally available. Male and female energy is naturally available within everybody. I found that in India. I found the divine feminine in me. Identified, felt that, embodied that, and felt the coupling from the male.
Yes. And so just about 30 seconds. Thank you.
the big thing that I've been exploring recently is just be lovable. So how can you be lovable? How can you amp up your ability to love, give love, be lovable, and just see what miracles manifest in your life?
And so, lovable miracle makers, we're so grateful you could join us. And for JaiRon, CEO, Greg Larsen, and Dr. Sarah Larsen, on behalf of Mediums, Mysteries, and Miracles, we'll see you next time. Thank you.